beginning. If you had to choose 2 games as ingredients for the perfect Chef's Kiss AC game, which 2 ingredients would you pick? Can I have 3? So basically what you're asking me is if I could combine 2 games to make my... Okay, 3, okay. If I had to choose 3 games as like base materials to craft the ultimate AC game out of, they would be AC1, AC Brotherhood, and AC Unity. I would combine those 3. By the way, if you guys don't want me to be skipping the story here, like, just let me know. I assume most people don't really care.
The front walls still hold. Samael's forces will be drawn there, weakening his defenses elsewhere.
Wait. Are you suggesting we sneak in? Good call. But that doesn't sound like you.
It's strategic.
Right.
Ooh. Damn, I almost like fell off the edge there. That was pretty lols. Leo, check 2B4U in Reddit. What's 2B4U? Did you choose Unity because you like red-haired women? I chose Unity because I believe that the gameplay core... Oh, 2 Balkan for you! Oh my god, yes. I believe that the gameplay core of Unity's stealth is actually ideal. I think that the game is a little bit too broken for it to be perfect, so it's not perfect. But the ideas, the core behind the way tools interact with movement and with stealth is really good, and I would like to see that system be taken forward. And then I chose AC1 because I think it has the best story, and I think it has the best, like the best structure. I know that sounds weird because a lot of people are gonna hate that. A lot of people will disagree with me. They'll be like, what the fuck do you mean AC1 has the best structure? AC1 has the worst structure. It's so repetitive and boring. No. AC1 has the best structure. You can make it not be repetitive and boring. Like, you can have the investigations vary themselves more, but the structure itself should still stay. And of course, yeah, I think AC1 has the best atmosphere. It's the most, like, it takes being an assassin very seriously, and that's what I want to keep. I want to, like, an Assassin's Creed game that they release at some point needs to re-indulge in the edgy cool factor of being an assassin. It needs to, like, be like a little kid, like, reveling in how cool it is to be a Brotherhood assassin. Show us how cool and edgy assassins are. Let us enjoy the cool factor of being an assassin, because an AC game hasn't done that in a while. It's almost like it's scared of like, it feels like someone at Ubisoft has decided assassins are cringe, we're not going to glorify them. No, glorify assassins. Assassins are cool. Like, you know you have to do that, right? So that needs to happen. And then I chose Brotherhood because I think it has the best combat framework. Is that Assassin with a capital A? Yeah, it's Assassin with a capital A. I chose Brotherhood because I think it has the best combat framework to build on. I think what Brotherhood needs is just more enemy archetypes. So basically, you know how Valhalla's whole thing is like, oh my god, we have like amazing archetypes of enemies, right? Yeah, you do, but ultimately you kind of fight all of them the same way at the end of the day. So what I would do is take the archetype complexity of Valhalla and bring them into Brotherhood's combat framework. The reason I think Brotherhood has the best combat framework is just because the flow is so incredibly good. You just feel so buttery smooth, you feel so lethal, you feel so graceful, and, like, I don't know. You just feel so deadly at all times. You have no choice but to feel deadly. And for some people, you feel too deadly. Like, they actually don't like how deadly you feel in Brotherhood. So my answer to that is, some enemies you have to, you know, attack in a certain way to be most effective. So basically, instead of just being able to brain dead chain to anyone anytime you want, there should be a skill check there of some variety. So maybe some enemies can only be flowed toward using a gunshot, or maybe some enemies can only be flowed toward using a throwing knife, or maybe some enemies can only be flowed toward using your hidden blade, right? Switching between those should be fluid, obviously. But let's say you hit the wrong enemy with the wrong move, you shouldn't stop in your tracks. They shouldn't counter you. You should still do damage. You should still be able to like move from them to another opponent, but you know, maybe they don't die, they just take a lot of damage, or they take stagger, right? Like things like that. Like, and of course, enemies should be threatening. So basically, the cool thing about Brotherhood is that you have so much control over the enemy. You can suppress the enemy really, really hard. But the problem is, why, like, other than just intrinsic motivation, which is because it's cool, I think enemies should be able to pressure you back. And to me, the best way to do that is to, well, your character can move really, really quickly. The reason they move really, really quickly is because they're not wearing heavy armor. And so because they're not wearing heavy armor, that means that they should be squishier. So as Guru says, Ezio was a little too tanky. I think we should make the next assassin squishier, but make them lethal against enemies as well, and make combat very fast and very fluid. So yeah, to me, like, whenever you're not kill chaining, like whenever you're just doing normal combat, like the dance of combat, the back and forth, they should take cues out of Ghost of Tsushima. So Ghost of Tsushima on lethal, I think, is the perfect balance, where you can hit stuff and it goes down really, really fast, but you also have to watch your back.
Perhaps the council trusts will make do.
Or they're testing us. Still.
We're bound now as enforcers of the balance.
Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima on lethal is the bomb. I love it so much. So you want to reintroduce ACU gunners back into the franchise? Sarcasm. Unironically, yes, I do want to reintroduce them back into the franchise, but I want to reintroduce them in a way that they feel fair. Like, for example, there are people with rifles in the Batman Arkham games, right? You know what the answer to them is? First of all, you can dodge, but second of all, you can toss a batarang at them to, like, stun them, and then, like, run up to them and disarm them and shit. Like, the player should be able to do things about that. The problem with Unity isn't that gunners exist. The problem with Unity is that gunners exist without requisite tools to deal with them. So let's say there was an example where gunners or archers or some kind of annoying ranged unit did exist in the combat space, in the stealth space, but the player had tools to deal with them. So maybe throwing knives and projectiles and gunshots will actually prioritize gunners over other enemies. Or there could be a flag in the code that says, hey, if a gunner is aiming at you, if they're about to shoot you, and the player does a quick shot, that quick shot should always prioritize going to a gunner that is about to shoot you, right? Like, that makes sense. Because what it becomes then is this idea of, hey, are you paying attention? Are you awake when you're playing? Like, you know, gunners, like, it shouldn't necessarily be like this impossible to deal with thing that's insufferable. It should be like, hey, are you paying attention? And if you are paying attention, you know, you chuck your throwing knife at them, and, you know, they take stagger, they take a lot of damage, and then you keep fighting. And then maybe, if you want, you know, it can also serve the second function of a wake-up call, which is to give you target prioritization. So, by target prioritization, I mean, okay, you've stunned them with your throwing knife, now they're in stagger state for like 3 to 4 seconds or something. Now you can carve through the rest of the enemy ranks to move toward that gunner and take them out before they get their bearings again, before they get to shoot at you again. And then now you've taken them out of the encounter. You know, just like cool things like that. Like, there's so much you can do. Yeah, or if there are too many guards, they just pull their guns out in Unity, which is kind of annoying. But honestly, even something like that, you could work around in a system that was actually fluid. To me, Ghost of Tsushima is like the perfection of Unity's combat framework. Even the way they handled quote-unquote gunners, as in like archers, is really good, because archers, especially on lethal, they will really hit you hard in Ghost of Tsushima. Like, they will kill you. But even if they're off screen, you know, if you hear them say their little dosho, dosho, like you know that you can dodge and you will avoid their arrow. You know, let us do the same thing. Let us dodge gunshots. Why not? Assassins are cool. They're scraping the edge of being superhuman. let us use that in gameplay in a way that feels cool. Like, Unity had such a brilliant opportunity, right? They had the opportunity to take something that is a threatening mechanic, which is being shot at, and to convert it into player fantasy, which is assassins are just barely superhuman, right? Like, they don't have magic powers, they're not gods, but they can do things that normal people would be like, what the fuck, how are you doing that? So they had this golden opportunity to just let you matrix dodge gunshots, and in fact Syndicate does let you do that, but in Syndicate the rest of the combat is so toothless that it doesn't even matter. Like, it doesn't even feel cool there because, you know, it doesn't actually feel threatening, and even if you do get shot, it doesn't hurt that much. Yeah, but dodging gunshots in Unity, it looks so jank, and also it's actively bad for you. Like, in Unity, a dodge never becomes an advantage. Like, in Unity, when you roll, you're punished equally as much for rolling successfully as for failing a roll. Why? Because the frame data doesn't change. So, like, if you roll to dodge an attack, you're still out of commission for the exact same amount of time. And because other enemies don't, like, relent, you know, they don't, like, back off their pressure while you're rolling, eventually that is what leads to this sort of pileup in the critical mass scenario, where there's so many enemies around you, and there's so many gunners around you, and there's so many attacks headed your way, that you just have to block and parry and roll and dodge constantly, and you don't get to take any actions. That's why you need smoke bombs, to break that cycle. But you shouldn't have to do that. If you do a successful... Like, here's my question. In Unity, you know how there's like a parry and a perfect parry? Why isn't there a dodge and a perfect dodge? Why isn't there a threshold for roll success, right? So maybe if you roll too early, you roll. But if you hit your dodge button just in time, you do like an anime like sidestep, like, right? Like, you know what I mean? And then your frame data is so much better. And then you can hit the enemies back and it acts as an actual counter. Whereas now, the way Unity is now, like, rolling successfully and rolling unsuccessfully, you get equally punished.